So hello and welcome to another video. So today what we're going to get up to is we're going to start a small series of videos on my Campervan electrics upgrade. And we're going to start with a battery, but there's a few other things we're going to be fitting. DC to DC charger, and we've got a 60 amp MPPT controller over there. There's a few other bits and bobs, wiring's got to be changed. But we'll get into it today by fitting the battery, and that'll be the first thing. As I say, there's other things to go. This is a 300 amp hour mini core Renogy battery we'll be fitting, and we've also got the Renogy Rover 60 amp MPPT controller to fit, because we're putting in 6 100 watt panels. We've got 4 on it just now, so we've got 400 watts there. And also we'll be fitting this DC to DC charger, because I've had the split charge relay in, but obviously that doesn't work too well with these lithium batteries, so we'll be changing that, but that'll be for another video. As I say, this is what we're going to fit first. So this is a Renogy mini core 300 amp hour battery. The reason I went for this one is because where we're going to fit it, we're going to put it underneath the driver's seat, and a 300 amp hour battery any other dimensions simply would not fit in there, so that's what we're going to fit in there. I've taken it out of the box, I've charged it. I tried to get myself a Renogy charger, but I could not find one for love nor money, so we went with the EcoWorthy 12 24 20 amp charger. They're really good. I've used them on other jobs as well. I've bought them for customers, and they work well, so that's what we're using to charge this up. So quickly, what comes in the box with the battery: you've got an e-warranty card, scan the QR code on the inside, register your product, that's your warranty. You've got bolts for different sizes, depending on how many lugs you're going to put on the terminals. So you've got a choice of smaller ones or larger ones. A couple of Renogy stickers, quite snazzy, but not something I'm going to use. I put them on the window and it says, come and steal the stuff that's inside, but a nice thought anyway. And you've got a full manual here as well. I suggest that you read this cover to cover. It will tell you everything you need to know about the battery, and really that's it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head it to the van. I'll show you where the battery is going to be fitted. There's a couple of things that I need to modify in the base where I'm going to fit this battery. We'll crack on with that, we'll get it fitted, and we'll have a look at that. Alright folks, so this is where the battery is going to live. It's going to sit in that driver's seat base. What we need to do first is, there's 5 Torx bolts holding this down. We'll get that seat off, and then we'll have a quick look underneath that base and see where we are. Okay, so now we've got the seat off the base. There's a couple of things we've done here. If we have a look in here, there's been bolts coming through for the handbrake. Now, where the battery is going to be situated, the bolts were too long and they would start rubbing on the side of the battery, potentially puncturing the outer case of the battery. So we've just ground them down effectively. Also, this red strap here, we've repositioned it so as that it's going to hold the battery in better. What I think we're going to do now is, there's 2 changeover switches there and the 40 amp solar controller. We're going to get them out of the way because this is what we've got to work with at the back. So we'll get these out of the way, and then we'll have a look at the battery and see how we're going to fit that in there. Okay, so having taken out the 2 changeover switches there and the solar controller, I'm having a look at things here. I was going to drop the battery in to the seat base, but I'm having a look at the cabling and where it's going to go, and I'm not entirely happy with it. In fact, there's a few things I need to change here, just to give me space. Ultimately, we want to fit a 2000 watt inverter, and the way the configuration is just now, that's not going to happen. So what we really need to do is, we need to, this cable in here that runs along, This serves a couple of USBs and a 12 volt socket. I'd rather get that running along the bottom and up to its position. Also this fuel tank here, I put it in there, but it's always been a pain to fill it up. You know, with the seating and that, it's kind, you can fill it up, but it's not ideal. So what I want to do is I want to raise that tank up higher. But in order to do all this, I've got to take that double bench seat out and get things reconfigured. So the battery right now is going to go back into the workshop because I've got a few things to do here. These cables here and all, I was running this ground cable through for the back, but it coming at the top of the seat base like that is not ideal. I don't know if you can see in here, there's a little grommet there. I'll put another one in, so we'll have the positive and negative cables from the battery running at the bottom, because they've got to be attached to the bus bars down there. So right, okay, we'll get this reconfigured and then we'll drop the battery in. Right, so here's where we are. We took that double bench seat out, we've moved that tank up. The wiring that was up there, we've now got that running along and serving those switches and those USB and 12 volt sockets over there. So that's tidied up. The seat base is out as well. There was a bit of rust on the bottom of it, and I thought I'd tidy it up. I needed to put holes in it and put grommets in it for running the cables through. Also what we've done is we'll have a quick look at this. So this is the panel. This is the panel that's been made up with bus bars, a kill switch and a 300 amp shunt on it. We're just going to fit that straight into here and it'll get screwed on. It's just easier than crawling about on your hands and knees. It's easier to just put it on the panel and then just work with it like that. So that's going to go there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to drop the battery into position right there, and then we'll put the base on and then we'll bolt the base down. Run the cables through to this panel here and get them hooked up. And it's hard to film obviously, you know, with one hand and do that at the same time. So we'll get it back together and we'll have a look at it. Okay, so we've got the battery in now and everything's connected up. We're just going to go through what cabling we've used, fuses and such, and we'll have a look at how everything's hooked up. So for the battery itself, we are using 35mm cable, and the reason being we're going to fit an inverter at some point. With what I use in the rear of the van, I could easily get away with 16mm cable, but we've got to sort of future proof it to ensure that we can fit the inverter. So the fuses that we are using here, it's an MRBF fuse, a marine fuse. So when you're dealing with high capacity lithium batteries, if you get a dead short, these things can unload themselves. I mean, you're talking thousands of amps, you know, instantaneously. Really, there's only two fuses that are going to cope with that. One's better than the other. A class T fuse would be, the industry is going to tell you, they are going to do the job and extinguish any arc, you know. The other one is an MRBF fuse, which we're using here. Really, they're the only two types of fuses you want to be using for a lithium battery, especially a high capacity lithium battery. I would forget about ANL, MIDI, mega fuses completely. They can turn into a liability. And the fuse we're using on this one is 125 amp. That'll go up when we're going to fit the inverter. But for now, what we need in the back, that's perfectly adequate. So we've got two 35mm cables, we've got 20mm conduit, they're coming out at the bottom there. I don't know if there's enough light here to see this, I'll try and get my light on it. There's two cables coming out the back there, so we'll have a look at the ground first. So the ground is coming up in the conduit. We've got a clip on here because it's coming into a 300 amp shunt. for the battery monitor, and we don't want this thing to move, so we put a clip on it and it goes onto the negative bus bar. The positive comes out conduit, it comes into this this kill switch. Now if you go on eBay, these things, they're all saying 600 amps, 600 amp 12 volt to 48 volt kill switch. I'll tell you right now, there is not a chance in hell that that thing is going to take 600 amps. I'd be hard pressed to say that that would take 200 amps, but it's adequate for what we're going to do. But don't believe the stuff on eBay, you know. It's obviously the manufacturers in the Far East are their specs on things are a little inflated. So we come up onto the bus bar there. That's the shortest cable in human history, a 35mm cable for the kill switch into there. What else have we got? So we are the negative over the other side. So the best ground for the van that I found was actually the seatbelt bottom mount bolt. You know, I've had the multimeter on it and tested it, you know, and it's almost the same as the leads when you test the leads. So we've got that coming off, obviously in conduit to keep it safe, and then it goes into that bolt there. I don't think there's a great deal else to add. We've got a feed here. This is a 16mm cable. This is feeding the 12 volt stuff in the back of the van. A 16mm cable for what I use in the back is perfectly adequate. That was what was there before. We're simply reusing it, and I think that's really about it. That's where we are with it. What we'll do is, obviously, I'm going to try and wrap this video up. I don't want to try and keep them too long. What we've got to do in the next one is we're going to have a look at the inverter. We'll have a deep dive, the DC to DC charger. We're going to have a deep dive into that, and we'll see where we're going to hook it up. But I think for this video, that's about it. You can see what we're using, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.